Hey, welcome back. I'm Evan Brand, certified functional medicine practitioner. I'm talking with you today about Candida. This is something that's very common. I would say about 6 out of 10 patients that I run an organic acids test on, we're going to see some elevated markers which indicate Candida overgrowth. So what is Candida? Candida is a species of yeast, and typically we're able to keep this under control naturally. So if we're getting exposed to some level of probiotics, some level of fermented foods, we're going to be able to prevent what's called a Candida overgrowth, which is basically a yeast infection. So let's go over some of the signs and symptoms and see if any of this rings a bell and may make you wonder, do I actually have Candida? And we'll talk about how you can find and figure that out 100% here in just a minute. So fermented food consumption in general is helpful, but in excess, this can be a cause of Candida. So there's many females and males too. Nobody's safe against this, but overconsumption of things like kombucha. So I've had several female patients that have been consuming kombucha for years, and some of them are drinking several bottles of kombucha per day. Now, you're going to be getting some B vitamins and some other nutrients in kombucha that can cause it to almost be a little bit addicting. It's kind of stimulatory, so we thrive when we drink the kombucha, but it can be taken too far and you can contribute to yeast overgrowth, specifically Candida overgrowth, if you are doing too much kombucha or other fermented product. So high stress, we know that high stress in general, putting wear and tear on the adrenal system, this whole HPA axis, that can cause some issues with the gut because we're going to be tearing apart the tight junctions in the gut, contributing to what's called leaky gut. And that can also make you more susceptible to bacterial, parasitic, and yeast type fungal overgrowth. So antibiotics, you know this one. Many people have gone through rounds of antibiotics, whether it was as a kid for ear infections or as an adult when we got food poisoning or something like that. Doctors tend to throw antibiotics at us like Skittles, and this is a big problem. And generally, once you decimate the entire population of flora, you're going to be killing off the good guys, and now the bad guys are going to have an ability to take place, and that's when you get an overgrowth situation. Very common in children too. I treat a lot of children these days, and 9 times out of 10 with them, which is a lot more than 6 out of 10 for adults, we're going to see some elevated biomarkers which indicate yeast or Candida overgrowth specifically. Let's look at signs and symptoms here. So fatigue is going to be a major one. So this is something for me too. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a couple different lab results, including myself and a female patient that has a lot of biomarkers that indicated Candida overgrowth. So fatigue is going to be really common. This is just going to be more chronic fatigue. So you never really feel like you're waking up for the day. You just feel like you're dragging all the time through life. Next is going to be sweet cravings. So something for me that my wife made fun of for a long time is every time I got done eating a meal, so let's say we had some grass-fed beef, some sweet potato with butter and some pink salt and maybe some other veggies, what's going to happen is I would get up from the table and I would be looking for some type of sweet. So whether it was a piece of dark chocolate or whether it was some frozen blueberries, I was constantly looking for something after the meal to satisfy that sweet tooth. And that's unlike me. So once I ran some testing on myself, I verified that yes, there was some Candida overgrowth that was happening. So constipation alternating into diarrhea. So one day you may try to go and you have nothing, and then the next day you're completely loose bowels. So alternating between these two is often a common sign, not only of just Candida, but some type of issue in the GI tract as well. Yeast infections, vaginal yeast infections, a lot of women talk about if you're getting yeast in the vagina or other sorts of places, there's likely Candida going on here in the GI tract as well. So low libido, this is going to be common. Now, I want to just pause here and compare and contrast the conventional model versus the functional medicine model. So think about it, right? You go to your doctor with some low libido issues. They're never going to say, oh, let's run an organic acids test on you, which is a test they don't even use or recognize as valid. Let's run this test on you and find Candida and treat it. It's never going to happen. What's going to happen? Oh, here's this little blue pill for your libido, right? And that's not even going to address what the issue is in the first place. So this whole ideology around libido having to do with just hormones or just vasodilation in terms of blood vessels and not enough blood flow to certain areas, that model is not completely valid. So we really want to look for Candida as a possible reason for this low libido as well. This affects men and women both. Depression and irritability, I'm going to tie those two in together. This is something I experienced as well. If you follow my work for some time, you'll know that my depression was a huge issue when I was going through my college years, and I never really figured out what it was completely until I really started running some of these labs on myself, looking at my neurotransmitters, looking for parasitic infections, looking for adrenal fatigue, and finding Candida as well. So that was something that I've also had to self-treat for getting rid of the irritability and the depression. See a lot of irritable people out in society, and a lot of these people are running around with Candida overgrowth in their bodies. So chemical sensitivity, that's the last sign and symptom I'm going to cover. So this may be that you're sensitive to some perfumes, you may be sensitive to chemicals. So maybe you walk past someone in the grocery store, you smell their perfume, you're like, oh gosh, I can't stand it. I've personally been sensitive for a long time to some of these issues, and that could also tie into liver dysfunction, which is a whole nother video. Here's going to be the protocol, or what you need to do to actually look for, investigate, and fix this Candida issue. One's going to be nutrition. So we want to make sure that we're not exposing ourselves to a lot of sugars, a lot of grains, refined carbohydrates, things that are actually going to feed the Candida. So you hear about Candida diets and Candida cleanses. I really hate that marketing term. It's really goofy, but in general, if we can extract the information from those type of marketing products, we're going to find that we want to stick to a lower sugar diet anyway. So some type of paleo inspired diet, a whole foods diet, lots of good leafy green vegetables if you like them. Starchy vegetables can be okay. Fermented foods, like we talked about, we want to stay away from. In terms of nutrition, we actually have to make sure that we're digesting our foods as well. So oftentimes with my patients, I'll use hydrochloric acid, I'll use some enzymes, some ox bile maybe to help support gallbladder, because a lot of times we do have impaired digestion. And if you've looked at my other video on parasitic infections, where you can identify, if you look at your fingernails and you see vertical ridging, that may be a sign you're not absorbing your fats and proteins well, which is going to contribute to this whole issue here. Testing, this is going to be the next best step for you. There's a couple different options in terms of testing. Sometimes if the Candida overgrowth is bad enough, I'm actually going to see it on a stool test that I'll run when we're looking for bacterial or parasitic infections. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes it doesn't show up, but it will show up on the organics acids testing. Now, what we're going to look on there's a couple different markers. Like I said at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a couple lab results that show these specific biomarkers so you can know if you have Candida. Treatment, that's going to be all of this. This is going to be nutrition. This is going to be some natural antimicrobials, some natural anti-yeast. So if you are trying to self-treat at home and you're not working with a functional medicine practitioner, some type of caprylic acid may be helpful. A natural antimicrobial is the best recommendation that I can give you. I won't cover specific protocols here because you definitely want to work with someone with this, because sometimes you do have symptoms as you're trying to treat this thing. I'm going to switch over to the office now, and let's go over a couple lab results here.
So as you see here, we're looking at number 7 on the intestinal microbial overgrowth scan here. What we're looking at is the arabinose. So arabinose is going to be a byproduct that you're going to find inside of the organics anytime there is some type of Candida overgrowth. So when we're looking at this number 7 here and we see a 27, which is off the chart here, we know that there is some type of Candida overgrowth happening. All right, so this is a 41-year-old female. And what we see here is a couple of different things. The yeast and fungal markers here right at the top of the chart, we're going to see the oxoglutaric acid and the arabinose. Both of these are elevated off the charts here. So this is definitely going to indicate some Candida overgrowth here. As we look through the rest of this lab, we're also going to see some altered neurotransmitter metabolites here. So there's definitely some issues going on with some of the adrenaline and noradrenaline as well as the dopamine here. So this could be due to some adrenal stress. Down here, we see some ketone and fatty acid markers, not really relevant to this particular video, so we're just going to end that right here.
All right, so that's it. So you saw the markers there on the organic acids test. If you have not had this run, this is one of the best bang for your buck tests that I use all the time with incredible success. I often use this in conjunction with looking at body system 1 and 2 as well, which is the GI system, and number 1 being the endocrine or hormone adrenal system. So when you have all 3 of these pieces together, you really do have almost 100% complete look at what's going on with someone's health conditions. So this is Evan Brand signing out. I am available for 15-minute free consults via phone or Skype that you can click on screen and schedule right here. All right, take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.